Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our regular council meeting. We sporting the walking wounded a bit today. We're just recovering from a bug, and we're missing a couple of our staff. I just want to start this as we always do, just recognizing that we're holding this meeting on the traditional territories of the Coast and Strait Salish peoples, and knowing today as the Esquimalt and Songhees First Nations that their connections to these lands continue to this day. And also that we are, of course, doing a live webcast of this meeting. So if you speak, you will be recorded, and that'll form part of our permanent record. So welcome, everyone. First item on the agenda is our minutes and reports. We have minutes of council meeting March 11th and committee of the whole of March 18th.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Are there any changes, amendments? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Not opposed. Thank you. As you can hear, yes, I've got a little recovery from a bug going, so I'll try and keep my remarks fairly short. I do want to recognize many of council went out to the VERCS, or Vancouver Island Immigrant and Refugee Center Society, recognition of the Welcome House that was built here, and the Lieutenant Governor, Honorable Janet Austin, was in attendance just to celebrate that. And I had a chance to say a few words. I just want to say here, just to thank Warren Jones, our acting CEO at the time, our Director of Corporate Services, who is, he was really instrumental in getting that happening and working with all the partners involved to get it together. So I just want to recognize his contribution to that. I also had the pleasure of attending the Leadership Victoria graduation event and to open the 110th Victoria Sketch Club show on Beach Drive. And if any of you haven't had a chance to make it down there, I really do encourage you. There's some fantastic art. I also, there's also two other events last week at the Monterey Middle School. They had a young entrepreneurs event, a market, and a math night. Both of them are really wonderful events put on by many students. There was a number of counselors who went and attended, and it was really a fantastic community event, and really impressed by the school and what they're doing there to encourage some out-of-the-box thinking. I also had a chance to sit down for the first time with all of the new mayors last week. So that was Cliff McNeil-Smith, Jeff Orr, Rob Martin, myself, and Fred Haynes. Went out for tea after a CRD meeting and just had a chance to get caught up on all things regional, and it was very productive. So we're gonna continue those meetings in future as well. I also would be remiss if I didn't remind you that this Thursday, April 28th, is the budget presentation. So our budget open house that we're going to be holding here. Sorry, March, did I say April? March 28th. This Thursday, March 28th, is our budget open house. So please encourage people to come out to that. It should be a very informative session. That concludes my remarks. And on to item number 3, which is our public participation period. And this is a chance for anybody who wishes to speak to items related to Oak Bay to come forward. I know we're expecting a few people from some of the local arts communities. You might as well come forward at the beginning. And I will... Our procedures bylaw allows for 20 minutes in total for people to speak. Each speaker is granted up to 3 minutes. So if anybody wishes to come forward at this time, you're more than welcome to do so. Please come forward. I was going to shut it off there just to kind of...
Your Honor, I thank you for not giving me the hook.
So just you'll know that the lights will come on when you start talking, and when it gets to 30 seconds left, it'll turn yellow and then red. For the record, we just need your name and your municipality of residence or where your business is located.
Thank you, Your Honor. My name is Ian Rye. I'm the CEO at Pacific Opera Victoria. I am personally a resident of both Victoria and Oak Bay, with a property that is subdivided by the border. We operate as Pacific Opera in the city of Victoria. I am here really to speak to a subject that you've all heard about, which is our shared vision for the Royal Theatre. Joining me to take on a second 3 minutes is my colleague Stephen White from Dance Victoria. We represent the Royal Theatre User Group. Our other partner in crime here, of course, is the Victoria Symphony. Catherine Lauren is unable to meet us, so we'll use 6 minutes of your time. This really is an opportunity to work together with the District of Oak Bay to improve the cultural life of our community. Last November, the Royal Theatre announced the imposition of an extraordinary 100% rate increase and punishing restrictions to theatre access for the local non-for-profit arts organizations. From a cost point of view, on a per-seat basis, the new rates are 2.5 times that of any other public theatre in Western Canada, including Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton. The Royal Theatre has produced, to our knowledge, no financial projections or any compelling financial rationale for such extraordinary changes and increases. They continue to operate as a very stable business with very healthy operating surpluses. The restricted access is intended to free up time in the theatre schedule for commercial promoters. Although we have confirmed that there is no evidence of the demand from the commercial sector for use of the theatre, no market research has been conducted, and nor is there any analysis that would suggest that commercial touring acts are even a sustainable business model for the Royal Theatre. I remind you that the Victoria Symphony has operated out of this facility for 75 years, Pacific Opera for 40, and Dance Victoria for 20. Not to mention several other not-for-profit arts organizations, Ballet Victoria and the Jazz Festival, all of whom we have brought together to form the user group. Now, we welcome increased entertainment options at the Royal Theatre, and we have already made significant changes and alterations to accommodate those programs, not least of which the Victoria Symphony took half of their programs to the University of Victoria this beginning in September. 30 seconds here, thank you. Besides displacing the local not-for-profits, the business model to us is making no sense. We represent 74% of all the revenues at the Royal Theatre and 78% of their audiences. We're the very foundation of the business model and the artistic model. The commercial renters, on the other hand, rightly pay a surcharge for the use of a public asset for commercial purposes. And this is standard practice with performing arts centres across the country. I'm going to pass the microphone over to my colleague, Stephen White.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ryan. Same process, just name and
Sure, you bet. Stephen White, I just live over on Hampshire Terrace, half a block away. I am the executive producer of Dance Victoria. The user group is fully aligned with the region's cultural policy and with our mutual commitment to a thriving cultural ecosystem. Last year, the user group produced 68 performances and generated attendance of 68,138 people at the Royal. Our core audience at the Royal provides a stable base that allows us to deliver free performances to an additional 56,300 people at community events to reach underserved audiences and engage with 25,700 youth through our school programs. Commercial promoters achieve none of this impact. We deliver artistic programs that explore Indigenous, Francophone, multicultural, and contemporary subjects. We address cultural, civic, and social needs through our work and partnerships with cultural organizations throughout the region, and demonstrate a commitment to truth and reconciliation through our programming and engagement of Indigenous artists. We provide programming at the Bauman Centre, Dance Victoria Studios, and through Symphony Splash. Commercial producers offer none of these benefits. We generate a direct economic impact of over $16 million per year, engaging 421 artists last season and producing direct employment income of $6.7 million in the CRD alone. Commercial producers generate a fraction of this impact. The imposed changes to the rates and restricted access represent a fundamental change to the use of the Royal Theatre. We don't understand it. Our organizations maintain a broad range of accessible prices starting at $27 for public and $15 for youth, while tickets for the commercial tours typically set at well over $100. So we seek your assistance in the following ways. We are asking for a formal third-party review of the Civic Theatre's governance and operating models, a comprehensive stakeholder consultation to establish the future use of the Civic Theatre, the creation of a Civic Theatre mandate to address the values and needs of the municipalities, the resident arts organizations, and the communities they serve, and the establishment of a governance and operating model to serve that mandate. In closing, we recognize our leadership role in supporting our civic theatres and encouraging the arts in the capital region. We believe that all partners should share equitably in this responsibility. Together, we can and must effect change that will mutually benefit our community and its vibrant cultural life. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. White. Yeah, you had a couple seconds left there. It was very.
You had 12 seconds.
It was well done, yeah. Is there anybody else who wishes to come forward at this time to speak to us about anything related to Oak Bay? All right. Thank you very much. And I just do appreciate you coming out here tonight. As you know, we're not going to be debating the issues there that you brought forward tonight, but it will be a topic of conversation in future. The time for that would be at any conversation we have around the RMTS as our sort of arm's length partner in all of this. So thank you very much for coming out. And with that, if there's nobody else coming forward to speak, I will move on to item number 4 on our agenda, which is the. Oh, there's a big contingent out here for this. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. I think that rates as the single largest percentage exit after an issue we've ever had. Thank you very much for coming out. All right, on to item number 4, Oak Bay Business Improvement Association. I'm assuming is there a presentation from staff on this at all, or should I just invite the president of the BIA? Why don't you come forward, Martin?
Thank you. From where I sat, this microphone sounded very loud. But anyways, may I begin?
Yeah, sorry, it should be the same thing, just your name and your organization, just so that people at home know who you are.
Okay. My name is Martin Cowden. I'm the president of the Oak Bay Village Business Improvement Association. I'm here tonight for a couple of reasons. First of all, there is the request for the Oak Bay Business Improvement Association budget of 2019. In the past, it was explained in advance, and perhaps without being too repetitious, the municipality graciously collects the revenues on a percentage basis of gross tax value of businesses, of buildings, and collects that and passes it through. So it's a flow through. For those people who may not understand, it isn't actually the people of Oak Bay paying for this budget. It's actually the businesses within Oak Bay Village who contribute to this fund so as the monies come back. And with those monies, we then put on different varied events. The purpose to build community, bring people into the village and make it a vibrant place for the community. So to that end, we feel that it's making a significant difference. And we emphasize that it's with the tremendous cooperation of Oak Bay Council, Public Works, Police, Fire, you name it, we get terrific cooperation, and we recognize it and appreciate it immensely. So the budget numbers have been presented and are posted on the Oak Bay Municipality's website, and I think that they were presented in such a time that if any of you had any questions about that budget, I'd be happy to address them to the best of my ability. I should qualify that last year and in previous years, Heather Leary has made representation, and she does a terrific job. She's also the person that deserves the credit for stretching this budget so far and making so many things happen on a relatively speaking small amount of money. She couldn't make it tonight, so I feel it's an honor to represent the people of the village Oak Bay merchants. So does anyone have any questions pertaining to the budget?
All right, I'll ask that question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Is there anybody from council? We'll take it in 2 steps.
Sure.
There's one is the budget itself for this year.
Yes.
But there's also an ask for the next 5 years and the process
Correct.
going forward. So why don't we just take questions on this 2019 budget first? Are there any questions on the 2019 budget? Maybe we can get a motion then just to approve the budget as it
I'll
stands.
make the motion as, do you want me to read it out, or
Just to approve the budget.
just to approve the budget as the memo from staff?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? None opposed. That's 2019 taken care of. Now on to future years. There's piece out here, and maybe it would be helpful for us. You're asking within this for a sizable increase to those funds, and maybe you can just give a quick highlight of what those,
Sure.
why, and what they'll be used for.
First of all, I want to thank you for the question because it allows me to address that change. 10 years ago, on the anniversary coming up, so in another year, it'll be 10 years, the budget was $350,000 for 5. And 5 years ago, it was increased by $50,000 to make it $400,000 over a 5-year period. Now, we are now looking forward to another 5 years. The costs of all those things that we do and the increased number of events that we put on have added along the way to incremental increases. Over the coming years, we anticipate that that's necessary. Everyone's hearing it, so I'll say it, but the contribution by private individuals and others supporting what we do adds significantly to making the existing budget work. And that's based on the generosity of individuals. So we do over and above what this budget presents before you, and you can see those numbers there. And there's one other qualification. We will lose $2,000 in this budget because it's presented as $78,000, not $80,000. And the reason is at some point in history, there was an overpayment. And so now that's been reclaimed. So looking forward, we anticipate increased costs for all those things that we do. Looking backward, we have had increased costs and we have stretched the budgets in so many different ways. I have to say that Heather Leary, our project coordinator and manager, she has spun gold out of the straw that we've had. She has just done so many things, getting so many volunteers involved. She has just made it possible. And so that is the justification. Costs are increasing, the number of events, and the attendance of events, as you would have noticed, say, either at the Christmas light up or at the Halloween trick-or-treating. The numbers of people flooding into Oak Bay and circulating are just fantastic. So it adds to the community, it adds to our business, it's part of what's making the Oak Bay Village business improvement, the whole business core here, success.
Thank you. Other questions, Mr. Clone? Councillor Braithwaite and Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Thank you for presenting that, and thank you for giving that explanation, because I think having been involved with the BIA over a number of years as an alternate liaison from Council, I have seen the amount of money that individuals put in over and above the budget that you're given. And I also see that our BIA is the envy of many other BIAs throughout the CRD.
Yes.
And that makes me feel really good that people can see the amount of activities and the bang for the buck that we get for this flow through that we give to you. And also the other thing is that you do involve a lot of volunteers, and for example for the Halloween, the pumpkin art, you involve the Kiwanis of Oak
Yes.
Bay. They take donations, so you're also supporting other groups within our community. And we know that the Kiwanis basically turn around and give that money right back to us as a municipality for something within our municipality normally. So I'm very happy to support when it's time, after we've heard from some other councillors. I'm very happy to support the increase for your budget moving forward for the next 5 years. And thank you to both you, the BIA, and especially to Heather for all that you do. And I'm really looking forward to the spring nosh.
Wonderful. If I can add to that, on the truck parade that went through, Heather arranged somebody to get trucks to come and pick up the amounts of food that were donated to the mustard seed and take it downtown to a commercial enterprise where they could roll the trucks on to weigh the amounts of food. No one else in the city contributed anywhere near that much food. We were their biggest contributor. The village of Oak Bay was the largest contributor, with the realtors banding together to have a contest to see who could raise the most. It's all part of a winning formula where more and more people in the community getting together to help out in so many really great ways.
Thank you. I have Councillor Patterson next, but I just want to In the report from staff, the next step is not to approve the budget; it's to direct staff to prepare a report on the process for a new bylaw. Is that
Your
correct?
worship, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Patterson?
Thank you, Mayor. And I also congratulate the Business Improvement Association on all of the fine work they do. I know that they work very hard, and the community does appreciate it. I don't have very much background with this Business Improvement Association, so I'm going to ask some questions, and hopefully everybody will be patient while I go through them. So I have read the bylaw, and the financial statement, I see, but it is for 1 year. In the bylaw, it does say that there's an audited financial statement. Usually an audited financial statement for this amount is...
Doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense, so but it is what the bylaw says. However, it would be nice to have at least multiple, at least a couple of years history, so someone like me has maybe a little more context to go by. Do we have any feel, I guess it'll come out at budget time, of what this will be? Like if we looked at last year's tax levy, what would this have done to last year's tax levy? Do we know? Is that considered at all when you do the budget, or is it perhaps I don't know. Maybe it's a question for staff really, because they would be the ones who
it doesn't
would
really
figure
come
it out.
this in 2019. It doesn't have any. I mean, it just comes as an in and out on our budget.
Yeah.
This won't show up on our future budgets until the bylaw is passed and that number is set.
Right, but it does. The business improvement zone money is collected through a tax levy for that portion of the district. So I'm just wondering if we have any feel for if a 25% increase had come through that on the previous year's taxes, do we know what it would have done to the tax levy percentage-wise? No.
May I just say one
Mr.
thing is
Kelly.
that the businesses pay that to their landlords.
Right.
So in the form of so whatever happens to the increase will go back to the tenants,
Right.
and the tenants pay. But I don't think it's going to affect any percentage-wise. It's such a small amount overall. But
Do
there's
you have a
people
sense of? We don't have our finance person here today, so we probably can't get an accurate answer for that. Do you have a sense of what a business, take a random, say a food business on the avenue, might pay for towards this on an annual basis when it breaks down?
approximately 1%, and right now it's under 1%.
Yeah.
It's not a make or break. And as, say, a potential vendor on Oak Bay Avenue with 2 sites, I couldn't raise a minuscule amount of promotion on what is being charged. Not even a minuscule. I don't think much more than an ad once in the Oak Bay News, as good as that might be. So it's a fraction.
If I can just...
Please go ahead. And but I think it's important. This bylaw process, does the bylaw process go out and poll the vendor or the merchants as part of it? It does.
It will go. Is that your answer or my answer?
I'll probably give it to
You go ahead.
Deborah.
Your worship, it depends on the process that's undertaken. There's 2 routes that this could be done through. If we were to do it through a counter petition, then either way, they have the businesses that are affected, the properties that are affected, will be given an opportunity to support or provide a counter petition, depending on which route we go through, and those options would be provided to council in the upcoming staff report should you proceed.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Patterson.
Yes, just further to that, wondering what kind of review is done when you're looking back on the year, because under the bylaw, one of the mandates is covered under legislation. And most municipalities will, in fact, decide what of the legislated mandates, if they're going to carry all of them or a few of them, and so there are some that we don't have. But in Oak Bay, under this bylaw, it's carrying out studies or developing reports, encouraging business, and then also membership training, and that I think most municipalities added in because there are certain events that take place, and often merchants do need training, so I understand that. Do we have any reports to show the numbers of people this attracts? I know I see a lot of my neighbors out at, say, the market nights and whatnot, so that's wonderful, and we all have a good time. But what about attracting new people? I'm just wondering if there's any reports or data collected that's perhaps shared with the merchants at the end of the year, or when you're doing the future year's budget.
Mr. Cowden?
I know that numbers are being tracked. I don't have those numbers. But you asked a previous question about an audit. And again, without revealing individual businesses, but there is a business that actually uses their accounting firm to review the accounts and produce the financial statements for the BIA. And the bill is tiny because that business picks up the difference between what it would really cost. On other organizations I'm in, the reviews are somewhere between $6,000 and $12,000. An audit is between $6,000 and $12,000. We don't have a budget for that. So, and in terms of numbers, there are people who do check numbers of people coming in, yes. And the numbers are, actually, you don't really need to stand there counting, although we do. And we've done that for the spring NOSH. There's actually a counter there counting because there's additional reasons why we have to do that. But one need only walk the streets and see how many more people are coming in. The closing of the streets for Halloween has only been going on for, what, 4 years maybe? Maybe because it became so popular that it seemed a safety issue that the streets had to be blocked off because so many wonderful ghosts and goblins and children were running in the streets. And now it's the number, and we keep track and we circulate it and discuss it because it's a pretty fair estimate as to how many children came through by how many hundreds of, or if not thousands of candies were handed out on Halloween.
Thank you very much. And it would be nice to get a report out that might share some of the numbers and whatnot. I think there are, I would be certainly interested in seeing what the venues generate. I know certainly Halloween is very well attended. They run back from the village to Fireman's Park and I'm between, so I know how much candy gets given out. And we should, there have been neighbors that have said that perhaps everybody along Monterey should perhaps get some sort of a tax incentive for all of the candies we have to provide. But I think it would be useful to have a report out about those things. And I guess out of this, it perhaps is also apparent that at the council table we may have work because the bylaw to request things like an audit is a financial statement by somebody qualified, I think would certainly suffice in this case. But that's work for council.
Okay.
And so that ends my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And that bylaw review, we could certainly include looking at changing some of that wording from audited to unaudited financial statements and things of that nature. So we would take a note of that so that when we're doing this review, we consider that as well. Councillor Green.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor, thank you very much for the report. And I just want to say that I'm very pleased to be the new BIA council liaison. And I think what I love about the BIA, it's all of the things that everyone has mentioned tonight, but it's the larger goals of building community, of supporting municipal initiatives such as Heritage. You provided a booth to us for, I think, 4 years in a row now at the market, summer market. And that has been the best promotional tool for the Heritage Foundation, I think, that we've ever had.
Great.
And you support all the service clubs locally. And so I I think it's a tremendous organization, and I congratulate you for the work that the BIA does on behalf of all of us. And the best part is that we have such engaged local businesses.
Right.
And in this time of Amazon and Costco and Walmart, it is wonderful to be able to support our local businesses on the avenue and in the other 3 village areas too. But Oak Bay Avenue just attracts so many people, and it's tremendous. So thank you.
Thank you. It's an
Thank you,
honor to be a
Councillor
part of it.
I'm going to go to Councillor Braithwaite, but I just also want to to Councillor Patterson's point, if there's a report out at the BIA of, when you have some numbers back, if those can be shared with Councillor Green, then Councillor Green can come back and share them with this tables, and that's our process for feeding the information back here. So that would be a very easy process.
Okay, if I could comment on that, at our annual general meeting, the financials will be circulated, and those numbers would be made clear.
Thank you.
And that'll come up generally in May. We have that.
I just wanted to, through you, Chair, just go back to one question that came up, and it was in regards to the businesses and how they, the amount of money that they will have to turn around and ask their renters for. And there is a certain percentage of people who have to agree to that, correct, for this to move forward. So is it 75% or 80% or?
Ms.
I
Hopkins?
thought someone else could answer that.
Through your worship, it's 50%.
Oh, 50%. Oh, there you go. So 50% of the businesses have to agree with the increase for this to go forward, even no matter what we would say. Is that correct?
Just to qualify, it's 50% of the owners that represent 50% of the affected lands.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, Mr. Campbell? So we need to have a motion.
So I'll make the motion that council direct staff to prepare a report in the process for renewing the Oak Bay Business Improvement Area bylaw.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? None opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity to make representation here. The whole community thanks you for what you do. And I say that, and I mean it, because I've been president of another BIA, and it didn't have the level of support this one does. So I think this council and this BIA, as Councillor Braithwaite said, is an envy in the province of British Columbia for what we managed to do with the budget we have. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thanks to Council for saying all the nice things I would have said, but I don't have to with my sore throat, which is great. Item number 5, we have the Regional Vegetation Management Strategy. This is a letter from the Highlands. Certainly we need to receive it because it's a formal piece of piece, but if anybody else wants to do anything else with it, such as indicate interest, attend the scope and parameters discussion at the CRD, I do want to point out there is I was just looking at the CRD notes because this came to CRD, but it was on the consent agenda, so I read through it at that time, but I thought I'd go back. And so just so you know, there was a motion passed at the CRD that the CRD convene a meeting of interested parties to determine the scope and parameters for the grant application submission, and that the CRD work with experts to inform and guide the development of that application. So there will be a regional group getting together to look at this. So if we're interested in having some attendance at that, it would be staff in all likelihood. Then that would be the motion, would be to perhaps attend at that. It is a bit borderline on us. We're not facing the same issues as those Western communities are, but it's still of interest. So, Councillor Green,
I'd be prepared to make that motion if that's agreeable with council colleagues.
Sorry, which motion is that?
That we have that we dispatch some representation to the regional meeting if and when it's called on this issue.
Okay, I think we just have to write a letter to indicate interest in participating on that group. At this point, that would be all it would take. So, with the motion to that effect.
Yes, to that effect.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Moved and seconded. Okay. Any other discussion? Councillor Zelka?
Thank you so much, Chair. I appreciate in the wording it was left ambiguous as to whether it was staff or council or maybe even both. And I appreciate the flexibility because once I check my schedule, maybe tomorrow I might be interested in going, but I can't tell today. Maybe with staff. Thank you.
And to be fair, I'm not clear whether this is a staff or a political gathering either, to be totally honest. So I think expressing interest and then getting more information is a reasonable approach. I'm going to you, Councillor Appleton. Before you put your hand up, you had a furrowed brow, so, yeah.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just an extension of that, if it is staff to represent, I guess I would want through the staff present to sort of request of potentially Parks, Rec and Culture staff as to who they would suggest would be the appropriate person to attend. I would think that staff associated with the implementation of the urban forest strategy would probably be the most appropriate, but again, we may not have the details to decide who should attend, but I guess I'm just asking staff that are here to maybe flag it for Parks, Rec and Culture staff who are not here, that might be something that we might be asking for input from.
Okay, thank you. I think that's very reasonable, and I would, on the face of it, that seems very, very logical, but we'll see where that goes. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed and opposed. Thank you very much. On to the new business and verbal reports. Is there any new business? Motions, anything of that nature? Okay. Report on the CRD. And my apologies, I have a document I put together, or Nelson Chan put together and I modified, that has a sort of a breakdown of the provincial budget and its impact on the region and municipality. I'll circulate that to members of council. Just it's an of interest piece of document, because I think we all get impacted by the provincial projects. The main discussions at the CRD, we've had 2 CRD meetings in this last 2 weeks. One was there's a fair bit of discussion, no decisions yet on methods of using doing the gas recovery at Heartland for the methane that's produced. Looking at means of doing on-island organics processing, either by aerobic or anaerobic digesting or composting. Again, no decisions. That's just going through staff review process. Excuse me. But the big one was that the Cap Regional Hospital District, Cap Regional Housing Corporation, and the CRD budgets and 5-year plans were approved at the last meeting. So these were budgets that were largely approved earlier, but this is the final revisions to that. Just for those interested, it's a $313 million operating budget and a $503 million capital budget. So a fairly substantial budget, certainly compared to our budgets. Core area waste treatment was the single driver of new costs, certainly in terms of capital. In Oak Bay, of course, that falls on our water bills, not our taxes. So it's interesting, our requisition from the CRD, because we had this huge uplift in our assessments a couple of years ago. Other areas have sort of caught up. They've been doing other areas, and they've caught up now. So the net to us is actually a 0.2% reduction in the taxation levy. It actually works out to about a negative 1.4% overall per household reduction in that levy. Just one of those quirks, because it's based on assessments, so that's how it's worked out. However, if we were to say apply that core area wastewater to taxes, that would be closer to a 9% increase as a levy. So just to give you some idea of where that weighs into the overall cost for our jurisdiction. Yeah, that's basically it. So those are the big numbers facing us as a piece. So good news for us this year in terms of the requisition. Ouch on the water bills, and we'll go from there. So that's my report from the CRD. Are there other verbal reports from other committees, commissions, boards that people are sitting on? Councillor Green and Councillor Patterson.
Well, I just want to acknowledge, much to her chagrin, she asked me not to, but I was ill all week and missed 2 important meetings. One, the Oak Bay Tourism Committee, and the other was the BIA meeting. And Councillor Braithwaite willingly attended on my behalf, and I was very appreciative. So she may have some comments about either of those bodies, and thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Mayor. And unfortunately, we don't have a very big audience tonight, but
there's thousands watching at home, I'm sure.
Hopefully there are many out there watching that have tuned into the broadcast. And so my report is actually from the Oak Bay Heritage Foundation, not to be confused with the commission. The foundation is a separate body. And their spring newsletter is out. And I think they've done a very nice job on it. They have a website now, too, so hopefully everybody can visit the website. And if you are a Facebook user, if you hit the like button on this then it'll go out to all of the people that you know, and that we will get the whole community knowing about what the Heritage Foundation does. But the reason they really wanted this presented is because we are drawing very close to the end of grant season. It ends at the end of March, and the Heritage Foundation is our body that is tasked with reviewing applications and awarding grant monies for heritage properties. So, and some of it is fairly significant. Homes that are designated are eligible for 25% of the restorative work to a maximum of $10,000. So that is a considerable amount of money to help restore a heritage property. For the non-designated homes that are on the register, they're eligible for up to $1,000. So while you can submit applications throughout the year, the deadline for this spring's grants are March 31st, so you have to get them in quickly. And they also have completed an annual report, and it's been submitted, and it will be put on a council agenda to be presented at a later date. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Patterson. Anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Braithwaite, you were put on the table there. You have to say something now.
Yeah, I was put on the table. Everything I think we talked about already for the BIA. There was an overview of all of the activities that had happened and how successful they were, which I know Mr. Camden has spoken about, and about the Spring Nosh coming up, which will be the day before Mother's Day, down at the opposite end of the avenue from where we are now, in the parking lot of a lovely business called, what could it be called, I wonder? No.
Chef on the Run.
Oh yeah, that would be it, Chef on the Run. And then the tourism committee, they also were just looking at some of their budgeting aspects, and then they were also looking at perhaps joining the Chamber of Commerce, which is something that I really wanted to put on the table for this council as well. I know there's other councils, other municipalities that have now joined the Chamber of Commerce, like Saanich, and I think North Saanich, and a couple of other ones as well. And it's something that I would really like us to look at doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to forward some information to staff and see if that perhaps could be put into our budgeting process in estimates to see if it's something that's viable for us to do. There's a lot of benefits that go along with it, and I think that it would be good for us to be seen as well as the other municipalities that are joining, for us to be joining as well. So that's something I'd like to put forward.
Thank you. Any other?
Sorry, and I forgot one thing. Don't forget that April 4th is the Acorn Awards.
Thank you. Any other updates? If not, we'll just move on to a motion to adjourn.
Move adjournment.
Moved and
Second.
seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? None opposed? Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate the speedy approach. Thank you very much.
Grant season. Listen, I saw how I see Saanich actually has given